Thanks for staying with us. So joining us to discuss technology, which is the theme, the past and the future of political action, Africa, is Executive Director, Enough is Enough Nigeria, Opeyemi Adamolekun. She's going to be talking to us about an upcoming conference. Quite exciting times. Welcome to the show.
We missed you.
You've been very active. Enough is Enough has not stopped. You know, it's been a while. We've known about EIE, and you guys have been very consistent. Well done to that.
Thank you.
So we are here about this conference that you're going to be addressing technology. Tell us about this new conference you're working on and why technology when it comes to issues of governance.
So we started in 2012, and then it was just new media and governance.
Right.
And that was the first time, I think it was the first conference of its type in the world where people were looking at how new media was being used in governance issues. Okay. So mobilizing people, education, then Twitter, Facebook, and all of that were just coming up. We took a break, and then in 2016, we redesigned it as a Pan-African conference. So it was now biannual, so we now do it every 2 years. And it became New Media, Citizens, and Governance. And we added citizens because we say they're the nexus between the tool of new media and governance outcomes. So fast forward to 2024, we now realize that with advances in technology, like artificial intelligence, that we now needed to add that to the conversation. So this year, for the first time, it will be called Technology, New Media, Citizens, and Governance. And it's just to really talk about how citizens and government use technology and new media. People tend to think of technology and new media from more the citizen side, but there's also the governance side or the government side of how they use it as well.
So what can attendees hope to gain or expect to gain from participating in this event?
Well, just really education, networking. So the format of it is what we call the demand and the supply side. So the demand is how citizens use it. We're tweeting, we're complaining, we're creating apps to track gender and sexual violence. We're creating apps to report police brutality. And then the supply side is how government is using it to ease e-governance. You can register for your voter's card online. You can register, you can do taxes online, make payments online. How are both sides using technology and governance? We're lucky we have two ministers, the Minister of ICT for Nigeria and the Deputy Minister for ICT for South Africa. And we have speakers from Liberia, from Kenya, from Ghana. So it's truly Pan-African. Well, little caveats. We didn't do well with Francophone countries. So let me confess.
Yeah.
So
Maybe the language barrier?
We just went intentional about deliberately finding speakers that are Francophone. So all our speakers are Anglophone countries, Ghana, Liberia, Kenya, South Africa. So we're sorry to your Francophone viewers.
For next year now, you would
for
be intentional about
2 years, in 2026. We will do better.
Okay. So how can individuals or organizations register to attend the conference? Is there like a deadline for registration?
So we're actually maxed out on our physical capacity.
Oh.
But people can certainly join online, and because it's a hybrid conference. Some of our speakers actually won't join in online. So we encourage people to do participate. Professor Yemi Oshibajo is giving the keynote address, and he's always a good speaker. He's a good, he has a good way of mixing. And interestingly, we found him very apt for the conference because he has a history in academia. He's a professor. He's worked at state level government. He's worked at federal government. He started an NGO at a point in time, and he was also in the private sector. Yeah, so he's worn all these hats, and the essence of the conference is bringing those different communities together to talk about it. And the website is newmediagov.ng.
Okay.
Okay, YK, you have a question?
Okay. Can you tell us more about the pitch session for content creators?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. So one of the challenges we find with governance content is that it can be quite boring. Go and vote, hold your leaders accountable, pay your taxes. And what we find, though, is that people, obviously, we say in the midst of so much that's going on, Nigerians will always find a meme, will always find something to make us laugh.
Yeah.
And in the last few years, we've seen the rise of skits makers, content creators. So we're thinking, let's provide an opportunity for them to help us make governance content interesting. So we're partnering with MI's organization called Task, and we're just opening it up to content creators to come and pitch what their idea is on justice and prisons in Nigeria. And we'll give the top 2 winners an award, cash prize, and also the opportunity to feature on TV.
How much?
And the wrap rapper Black Bones has actually also joined, and he will be there as a judge as well. So we have 3 celebrity judges, which will be fun. How much to be announced on Thursday? The conference is on Thursday, so we find out on Thursday.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you concern, because when I heard about technology, sometimes it comes across as we're saying, how do you report violence, report the police, report, just report everybody. But is technology going to also help us appreciate what government is doing at all? Because sometimes it's always one-sided, like, let us just totally bash government. I always try to intentionally look at the side of the government. Like there are some silver lining here and there, and those should be highlighted. So with this technology, also do that side of highlighting what government could be doing that is positive, that could help.
Certainly, and that's what we're calling it demand and supply. So the demand is usually how citizens demand governance, but we're also giving government the opportunity to say how they are supplying it. So Lagos State is actually a case study. So we have the permanent secretary from the Office of Political and Civic Engagement, and she's coming to talk about how government is actually engaging citizens on that side. Now, you're right. Citizens tend to use it in a demand way, but there are a few times where technology is used in a sense to complement what government is doing. So artificial intelligence is big, and the scope of what AI can do for citizens and for government is also new, and also for good and bad. Right. And we also want to talk about that as well, that technology is a great tool, but it's not a tool we should just be like, oh, open and let's do whatever. Yeah. The regulation is needed. Education is needed, so people also understand that it's not every video you see or every picture that you see that is true.
Yeah. So with what you're saying, is this event is it specifically targeted for government or policymakers, or is it open to everybody?
It is open, and that's why I used Prof's many hats as a benchmark. So he's an academic, he's worked in private sector, he's worked in government, he's a citizen, if you want to use that, and he's also worked in the civic space. And this year, for the first time, we actually have the private sector we involved them intentionally. So they're actually sponsoring a panel. Because ultimately, it's the private sector that creates these tools.
True.
So what role do they play? And especially also what role do they play in terms of safety and how their tools are used to make the world better rather than harming people.
Can you give us a few of your key panelists for the event?
Oh, certainly. So I've mentioned Professor Shibajo, who is giving the keynote, Bosun Tijani, Minister of ICT, Deputy Minister from South Africa. If I pronounce his name, I might not do justice.
Okay, you can
Deputy Minister from South Africa. Shola Bumisha is the PS from Lagos State. Okay. We have Enyo Kumaho from Ghana, who's founded a company, actually, which is working in the private, so it's a private sector company working with civil society to create a tool to allow civil society actors to work together with government in a more collaborative way. Off the top of my head, let's see Gbenga Sheson, who's been in the IT space in Nigeria for maybe 20 years. We have Muriah, who's founded a demography project in Kenya. Richard, as well, from Kenya, who's also working on elections and civic engagement. So quite a mixed bag of speakers.
So tell us where, time, we can show up and conference.
So it's in Bagada, it's on the mainland. We're talking about, it's on the mainland, it's in Bagada in Lagos. As I said, we're maxed out on physical space, but please join us online. It promises to be really exciting. Website is tech.newmedia.gov. Okay. Again, tech.newmedia.gov.ng. Sorry, tech.newmedia.gov.ng. And it starts at 9 o'clock.
So I was talking about civil society, because one of the things we always complain on this table is that NLC is usually an organization that comes open when issues of subsidies or issue of what does that want to do? Salary, the wage, that's where we see them. But sometimes civil society comes across as combative, when really there should also be, there's some human interest stories that we don't see much of them. We see the NGOs do that, but civil society doesn't really come up to do other things. So, and I see you've been very consistent when it comes to Office of the Citizen. Tell us, what future do you think civil society should play? Because I always talk about how our democracy is progressing, and we are at a point where citizens must begin to participate, not become spectators anymore. So civil society, citizens, how do we become more effective going forward and more responsible in development of our country?
The biggest thing is education, in my view. Unfortunately for us as a country, for a lot of people, democracy equals elections. So we get engaged every 4 years because that's when there's a lot of noise, go out and vote, get your card, and that's where there's a lot of attention. But in the 4 years in between, which is what you're talking about, that you engage and you participate, we don't see as much of that. Again, because there's nothing in Nigeria's structure that really teaches what a democracy is. We sort of expect people to understand what it is, know what they're supposed to do with it outside of elections. On elections, we're very clear. Go out to vote. Is your duty, is your this, we're clear. But after that, how do you engage? How do you participate in what's happening in your community? Local governments are now being given more autonomy. Local government elections, for example, in Lagos State are next year. In this year alone, I think we've had, after the judgments, we probably had like 15 states do quick back-to-back local governments. So it's much easier, rather than focusing on federal government or even state. Your local government is closer and smaller area to manage. And then the hard work of organizing. So people we need to keep educating people. And then the other side of that is also sharing positive stories. And you alluded to that earlier. How do we let people know that engagement works? Because unless we share those stories. So if all the stories we're sharing is police did this, this one did that, that one did that, it's a problem. But if we yes, but if we're able to share a story of a community got together, they went to see their local government chairman, and a road was fixed or a school was renovated, it also communicates to people that they have agency and power. So we need to do both sides, I think, in amplifying media and helping us amplifying positive stories, and civil society in also doing better with the storytelling of what works.
Hold on, wishing you the best on Thursday. So it's on Thursday. The venue again, Bagada?
This
Where in
Thursday
Bagada?
in Bagada. It's called The Zone. It's next to UPS.
Okay, yeah.
And
Expressway.
we'll have Miss Morayo moderating one of the sessions. So
sessions.
come see Morayo. If you want to come and meet Morayo.
Come and catch there.
All right, so fantastic. I'm really excited about my panel because I'm there with Ayo. I think I'm somewhere else from
Tolu from...
Tolu.
So we have the three, as I call them, three of the powerhouse women in media.
wow.
So Morayo from TVC, Ayo from Arise, and Tolu from News Central.
Yeah.
So we're quite excited to have them.
All right, let's go on a short break now. We'll come back, continue with the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.